So, and I'm a little worried possibly with Wendell and Jack. Right now, I'm not sure their microphones are working. I'm unable to mute them at this time, so I'm thinking their audio hasn't connected. A little worried possibly with Wendell and Jack. Right now, I'm not sure their microphones are working. I'm unable to mute them at this time, so I'm thinking they're...
Where's the echo coming from, Brock? Can you hear me, Wendell?
City office.
Is it?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Wendell? There's a big time delay too.
And that's from, we believe, from doing live.
Is it?
Yeah.
Big time delay too.
And that's from, we believe, from going live.
How are you gonna fix that, Rocky? How are you gonna fix that, Rocky?
I don't know. We will. We got Christelle here to work on it, so we will get it fixed.
Are you ready to start?
And it shouldn't echo.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right.
There's a delay.
Two. All right. I think we have everybody here, and
Can Wendell hear me? Yes? Okay, all right. We're gonna have everybody check in at the front, so kind of be ready for that. Uh-oh, Brock fell off the table. Chris, ready?
yes.
Okay, council, welcome to City Council, Santa Clara City Council. We'll call this regular scheduled meeting to order. I appreciate everybody being here. I need to do a roll call. If I could get the council to say aye when I call your name. Wendell Gubler.
Aye.
Benny Drake.
Aye.
Jarrett Waite.
Aye.
Ben Shakespeare.
Aye.
And Councilwoman Mathis is out of town at a funeral, and she won't be joining us tonight. So again, I appreciate you guys being here. I'd like to begin the meeting with an opening ceremony and pledge of allegiance. And Lena was assigned, but I've asked Jarrett if he would fill her shoes. So Jarrett, we'll turn it over to you.
Would everyone please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Our dear Heavenly Father, we are grateful for this day and for this chance we have to meet as a council and city staff and any community members that may be joining us. We're grateful for the community we have to live in and for the we had to be spared from much of the worries with coronavirus and with cases in our area. We ask for guidance and the decisions we'll make tonight, that they will be what's best for our community. And we ask for any additional guidance we may need as this pandemic moves forward. And say these things in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen. Jared's buffering. Okay, council, communications and appearances. We don't have anyone who has requested an appearance before the council, so we'll go ahead and jump down into conflicts and disclosures. Council, do you have any items that are on the agenda tonight that may be a conflict of interest for you with anything that you do? I need to disclose on general business item C1, not C1, C2. The road dedication plat was prepared by Rosenberg Associates. So declare that. Anyone got anything? Okay, we'll go ahead and jump down to the working agenda. We don't have any public hearings scheduled for tonight, right, Brock?
That's correct.
Under the consent agenda, we need to set a public hearing to discuss and receive public input on amending the Santa Clara City Street impact fees for May 13th, 2020 at 5 p.m. Also set a public hearing to discuss and receive public input on amending the Santa Clara City Public Safety impact fees for May 13th, 2020 at 5 p.m. That should probably be 5:05 since it's the same day. And set a public hearing to discuss and receive public input regarding a business license and limited restaurant alcoholic beverage license for Ryland's Bistro located in the old Kalilis location at 2862 Santa Clara Drive for May 27th, 2020 at 5 p.m. Council, do you have anything to discuss or any questions on the consent agenda? If not, I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, I'll make that motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ben Shakespeare and a second by Jarrett Waite to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any question on that motion, council? Seeing none, we'll just do a roll call vote. Wendell?
Aye.
Denny?
Aye.
Jarrett? Jarrett?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, council. Under general business, consider approval of the amended preliminary plat for the Edge at Grand Desert presented by Bob Nicholson. Bob?
And I just, Kyle Hafen and Joe Platter joined the meeting on this item.
They're the applicants, correct?
That is correct. And so I just admit them, so my second as they join in.
Brett Hinkey's also trying to get in.
Who was that?
Brett, their engineer.
I haven't seen his name come up in the waiting, so as soon as if he does, Brett's comes up, I will admit him, but he's not there currently.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. This is an amended preliminary plat for phase 1 of the Edge at Grand Desert. This project is a resort type development located in a planned development residential zone in the South Hills area. The applicant is Sycamore Development, Patrick Manning, Kyle Hafen, and Joe Platt are the representatives. The project engineer is Brett Hankey with Kuma Engineers. Phase 1 has 37.3 acres. The amended preliminary plat for phase 1 has a resort hotel complex and 7 single-family lots along with the proposed public street road layout to access the hotel site and single-family lots. The amended phase 1 preliminary plat area is in the southwest corner of the project site and shows the primary street access is through the Williams property. And, at some point we probably could call up, show the plat. The amended road location or the road through the Williams property is probably the principal change in this plat. So you can see on the right-hand side of the plat on the west is the road there where the cursor is. That is the new main principal access to the hotel site and the 7 single-family lots. The original planned public street was through a wash or a small valley that came off the Sycamore subdivision. And Brock, if you've got the cursor, maybe we can show that. That's the one that drops down straight, right there, drops straight north off the hill and tied into the Sycamore. Their plan is to eliminate that road, but not actually eliminate it until they have reached the agreement with the BLM for the road that will go to the west. So the road to the west, where the cursor is shown, goes through the BLM property and then would tie back into Gates Lane and that Gates Lane Bridge. So the principal access comes off the street, comes uphill from the new Chapel Street Bridge. I think the new bridge is called Sycamore's Bridge, and that will be the primary access. All utilities will be included in the new public street coming from the bridge area. 7 single-family lots located on the north side of the main public street and to the north of the proposed hotel site, kind of up on the ridge top. And then they have the resort-style hotel with approximately 172 rooms. The building elevation drawings and parking plan for the hotel will come before the Planning Commission and City Council in the coming months for approval. And when this Planning Commission considered this amended plat in January, as I understand, the applicants were still finalizing those details and they probably have them ready, but we thought it'd best to take that elevation drawings to the Planning Commission first and then to the council. So staff comments are the amended preliminary plat is ready for council consideration and approval with the understanding that the hotel plan, the building elevations, and the detailed site plan will come before the Planning Commission and council at a later date. And we suggest at or before the time the final plat comes forward. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the preliminary plat with that same understanding that the elevation drawings will come with the final plat. And also they had an understanding that this would go back to the Hillside Board for some clarification issues, and that happened after the Planning Commission meeting. But Planning Commission recommended approval with the understanding that the Hillside Board would consider this plat a second time. So then let me just recap the Hillside Board. So Hillside Board looked at this at least twice, perhaps 3 times, but the final time was, I believe, in March, and the board recommended approval with 3 conditions. One was the rock retaining walls to be with rock from the site or light colored materials. Second post a reclamation bond for the road excavation as per the hillside ordinance requirements. That bonding requirements found in section 17.80.030. And 3, address concerns about drainage above the retaining walls. And that would come forward in the details about the drainage and the retaining walls would be part of the construction drawings that would be submitted with the final plat. So that's probably a brief, quick overview. I don't know if you have questions for me, but I think that's all I have at this point.
Bob, are the building elevations part of the preliminary plat approval?
Well, they're being deferred until the final plat in this case.
So-
Or the other alternate is, bring those elevation drawings forward prior to the final plat. Or I guess the other option is you could continue this preliminary plat if you want to see the elevation drawings. My understanding is that those drawings, this is according to Patrick Manning, those hotel renderings and drawings are now ready and available. They weren't in January when the Planning Commission considered it. And so, there's, I guess, a couple of ways to handle it. Either continue this and consider those elevations, or bring them forward prior to the final plat or with the final plat.
I guess the reason I ask is that for the subdivision lots, typically those construction plans would be approved by a staff member, and they could actually get a grading permit and go start construction without coming back to council. Since the building elevations are part of the subdivision on that hotel lot, and it hasn't come through council approval yet, would they have to come back to council to make sure those are approved prior to granting any kind of a grading permit on the site?
Yeah, I think that would be a reasonable action, right?
Okay. And then do they comply with the development agreement and the zone change that was completed out there?
Yes, I think as far as I know, I think all the details have been complied with. Unless there's something on the Williams Road that I'm not aware of, but they are, planning on building the Williams Road as shown on the preliminary plat. So I don't know if Matt has anything that I'm not aware of, but I think that it's all complies with the development agreement.
I'm not aware of anything else.
Okay, the amenity size and all those things that still comply with the zone change up there.
Yes, and the applicants may want to chime in. They've said at the Planning Commission meeting that they now plan to put all the amenities in with phase 1. Maybe we can get Kyle or Joe to clarify that, but I just reviewed again the Planning Commission meetings minutes from January. And that was January 9th. And it says, Mr. Platt, I'm reading from the Planning Commission minutes, that Mr. Platt explained it took a long time to negotiate through Williams, et cetera. But, somewhere they did state that the amenities would come along with the first phase, and now that they've got the bridge and they plan to sprinkle the units, I think they again have committed to put in the amenities, and exactly what those amenities are would have to come with those elevations and those details. So we don't have all the details on the amenity package. They've kind of talked about, I think, a couple of pools, but we don't have all the final details.
Do you want me to, this is Kyle Hafen. Do you want me to address your question there, Bob?
Yeah, that would be good, I think.
So really the two main purposes for coming to amend the plat that we already had was one, the access road. We really wanted to make sure that that main access was going to be able to come around through the Williams piece, which is what we worked on and what we've got accomplished. The other would be to move the development of Hotel Central, which is kind of tucked towards the back, where now we're looking at phase one, and build the Hotel Central aspect, which includes the majority of all the amenities, from pools to spa services to et cetera, et cetera. So those were the two main reasons, was to try and eliminate the roadway coming up through the center of the project, now by way of the Williams access, and then instead of compartmentalizing or setting aside monies or bonding for the improvements for the amenity packages that would be required for that size of a resort, we decided it would be best if we just built that part first, with the larger hotel, restaurant, central area. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers my question. Council, do you have questions for the staff on this?
What's the density level of the 32 acres?
Well, the density on the 32, they have 7 single-family lots, and then the hotel. That's all that they have on this 37 acres, whatever, in phase one. So
I understand. So is that the 172 rooms does not affect the density level?
well, I don't think on a hotel we've looked at density per se. That would be strictly on a residential project. Hotels wouldn't have the kind of residential density standards. They'll have to meet the parking requirement, 1 space per each room plus 2 for the management. And we'll expect the detailed parking plan to come forward with the final site plan, but we haven't ever looked at hotels as a density issue.
Well, so when we rezoned that acreage, it was rezoned with a density issue. So what was that density issue?
Councilman, I don't remember that. We'll have to, what the overall density on the project. I think the overall density for the entire development still fell within the low density, and maybe Kyle can respond to that. Again, phase one has 7 residential lots and the hotel, and that's on the 37 acres.
So Bob, just a question for you. What if that was an apartment complex? Does that not affect the density level?
Absolutely would. If it was
So
an apartment.
a motel, though, we're not using that throwing that into a density portion?
Well, no, because the hotel by definition is short-term rentals.
Right.
Whereas an apartment is a true permanent residence, or could be a true permanent residence. This is a hotel, and therefore we haven't, calculated typical residential densities for a hotel development.
So as long as they don't change it from a nightly rental to a weekly or monthly rental, then it has no effect.
Well, and the short-term rental is defined as 29 days or less. So as long as they kept it under the 29 days, that's typical of any hotel, motel, short-term rental. If it's a month or more, then it falls into the category of a true residential unit, permanent. That would be considered similar to a permanent residential unit. And if it was a permanent unit, if they were apartments, yeah, then density would come into play.
Interesting.
My understanding is that the hotel was part of the zone change. When they came in for the zone, they were zoned to include the hotel.
Yes, correct. They had the hotel was part of the PD plan.
So it had that commercial aspect built into the zone change.
Right.
And the development agreement address that too, right, Matt?
Yes, it does.
So tell me, some of us are coming in after the fact, but there was, is it 90 acres that was rezoned?
Let's see, it's approximately that. Kyle, can you help with, what is the overall project acreage?
I can't remember the exact number. I'm actually looking through my note right here, trying to find out too. If Councilman Drake's question is trying to get to what's the overall entire project with the 435 units per se at the 70, 80, 60, I can't remember what that number is of the total acreage, but I'll find it here in 2 seconds.
Yeah, Councilman Drake, it is, I don't know if it's 90 acres, but it's in that range. And, you know,
And so we're talking low density, which is what, 6 units per acre?
well, I think typically overall four would be low density. And offhand, looks like I'd have to go back and look at the original overall PD zone approval to tell you what the project density was overall. You know, again, tonight, this is phase 1 on 37 acres. The balance of the property, I mean, the phase 1 has the hotel site. The balance of the property would have the remaining residential units.
Yeah. Well, and so is it a PD zone or is it, did we
Yes, it is.
rezone at density level?
It's a planned development zone.
Okay.
They had a project plan approved, and this probably goes back a year, maybe a year and a half, even possibly 2 years. Showed the hotel site and the overall residential project that's part of the entire development, but it is a planned development zone project.
If I recall, I believe the overall density was about 5.5 units per acre. And so I think we're somewhere around 80 to 85 acres in the development agreement.
Thanks.
Other questions, council? No other questions for the staff or the applicant? Jarrett, go ahead.
I have a question. So looking at the plat map, can you just give me a sense, Kyle, of where this is in terms of the crest of the hills up there? Like, is this visible from Santa Clara Drive, or I'm just not quite sure where it is exactly?
This sits, the phase change that we've put is on the very southern part of our project. So it would be logically the least visible of anything. I don't know if there's going to, you know, where it might highlight or where you might be able to see it. We've kind of referenced the Jacob Hamlin intersection. This is the furthest, it's on the southern border that borders the BLM on the very south side of the project.
Okay, thank you.
It's south of the crest of the hill.
So any other questions?
Are the residential lots also going to be zoned for vacation rentals, or are they just straight up residential?
They'll have the option of both.
Yeah, we haven't addressed that specifically. Probably leave it open.
That's addressed in the development agreement, isn't it, Matt?
It is. Sorry, it's Patrick, but yes, it is.
Yeah, I think the approval covers all of the property, so they have that option.
So granting a preliminary approval without the actual site plans and stuff You don't see that as an issue?
I
Matt?
think they have to come back to get that hotel approval. Or they consider they have site plan approval, they'd have to bring those renderings and the detailed site plan back to the council so you could see it.
But they're willing to take that risk on moving dirt without getting that approval? I guess.
Yeah, I don't know that they could even get their grading permit for the hotel site without that approval. They're kind of taking this in two steps without having those architectural plans and details and elevations available to look at, how their parking's done, that kind of thing.
Bob, I see your lips are moving, but you're on mute again.
I was just saying, yeah, I don't think there'd be any grading allowed until those hotel elevation drawings are approved. And I think the applicant would have the option of bringing those hotel renderings and final details on the hotel site forward before the final plat, or I think bringing it with the final plat would be another acceptable option. But you know, I don't know what the timing is for them to have their final plat, which entails all the construction drawings, and they may want to bring those hotel renderings, you know, before that. I think, and I see Patrick's joined us. As I understand, those drawings are on the hotel are now ready and probably ready for consideration.
Yeah, I think that was our plan is just to get our preliminary plat approval process over with and then basically start at the TRC level, coming back through and preparing for our final plat along with all of those requisite things. I don't think we had any intention of moving any dirt prior to a final plat approval.
Patrick, the final plat, is it going to show the hotel as just one lot? One commercial property?
No, it'll be kind of minimized as part of the total number of units. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's one parcel, but condominiumized.
Well, if it's a condo project, it's considered residential. So
right.
How do you do a hotel, a commercial hotel, and consider it residential? For sale, I mean, a condo project is a unit for sale. So yeah, that's a condo project. That's a residential project.
Yep.
Not a hotel.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It's always been described that way. The biggest issue, I think.
It'll just be one lot inside the subdivision that covers the hotel property.
So I have a question maybe for Patrick. I know that hotels are condominiumized typically nowadays, but are you envisioning that these units would be available for permanent residency, or is it still a hotel operation?
It's a hotel operation first and foremost. I would prefer for us to say no one is allowed to live permanently in there, but we cannot do that, or we're going beyond skirting SEC laws.
Well,
so we want to frown on, a permanent resident staying in the hotel portion and more being some of the more buildings outside, if they want to do that. We're not frowning on people living at the edge at all. It's more so living within the hotel component.
Well, you may have missed Councilman Drake's question about density. And I was under the understanding that the hotel, and when it's a hotel, normally we don't get into residential density. But if this was condominiumized for permanent residency, then it's essentially like apartments, then it would, raise the issue of density. And was the hotel density part of the overall project plan approval for the overall density?
I think, let me answer that. I think there's a disconnect. We refer and talk about and reference the Hotel Central internally within our partnership to identify the specific area that's going to be surrounded by most of the amenities. When we say that, we are not referring to an actual hotel occupancy type concept. It's going to be ran that way because it is going to be a resort with vacation rentals and nightly rentals, but it's still, and then when Patrick says within that area that's going to feel most like a hotel because it's attached to, say, the restaurant, the pool or one of the pools, unlike 100 yards away where there's a condo project that has 20 or 30 or 40 different units within that. We're saying that's a condo. Really, we're saying the hotel is a condo, but we're referring to it as a hotel. Does that clarify something?
Doesn't clarify it for me very well.
So let me say it this way. We call it Hotel Central because that's where the check-in facility is. That's the front desk. That's concierge. That's everything like that. But we never intended for the units within the hotel to be they're intended to be included in our density. So our development agreement allows for a total of 438 units. The hotel and however many units are in the hotel is part of that 438 units.
Oh, okay. Well, that helps clarify.
That clarifies that. That's the big thing.
Okay. So that's part of your overall density package. And I think, as I understand, you've got 172 rooms as part of the application for this hotel project.
Right.
Or 172 units, I guess you'd say. I don't know, rooms.
So this will be platted with common area and ownership area.
Yes.
Council, anyone have any other questions?
And this is just a question for Matt. I guess I just don't know. Tell me what our densities are in our zone. Matt, is low density? Is there a range or is it a number?
Probably defer to
Medium
Bob
density.
I'd probably defer to Bob to answer that question. But I mean, I will say nothing that I'm hearing is inconsistent with everything we've done on this project as far as the development agreement and so on. And, the fact that this is condominiumized, it sounds different, but really, I think the way to think about it for the city is no different than we've treated other projects like, Paradise Village or others.
I'm not talking about the development itself. I'm just wanting to know what we have as far as the density zones within the city.
Okay.
I think Bob answered that. I think low density is 4 and under, isn't it, Bob?
Well, yes, under the general plan designation, but under the PD zone, the ordinance allows up to 8 units per acre, and then under the density bonus provision, you can get up to 12 dwelling units per acre. They have been under both of those. They don't approach the 8 units per acre. And
but according to them, they're looking at about 5.5. That was just all.
Yeah. So, but the PD zone is up to 8 or up to 12 if they meet the density bonus criteria and the council approves that density bonus.
Okay.
I don't think anything's changed on this from day one, other than a preliminary plat showing this new access coming off Sycamore Bridge there. All the numbers are exactly what I think's approved and what has been approved, was approved last year or a year and a half ago.
That's right. Basically, the only reason we're amending the plat is because we got approval for a much smaller first phase that did not include amenities because of the fire restriction for the second bridge coming in. And then the city adopted the 200 additional units if they're sprinkled. And so we came back in, then we went back to work to design a phase 1 that we felt better about that would include all the amenities up front. So the only reason we did that was in response to the city's change to the fire code.
Yeah, I would think, Mayor, like I said, it would be an approval, obviously, knowing that the Hillside has made their recommendations and the architectural renderings need to come in. But I think everything else looks just like, things have changed a little bit, but everything's still within the agreement that was made.
Yeah, I agree as far as the land area goes. It's just the condominium nature necessitates the architectural and the footprints and those types of things to be part of that review. So we'll just have to have that follow-up review before the final plat's submitted.
Well, and I think the way you defined the condominium use, that is a residential use. It's also a deeded property. So to me, they've included in that density level. So I don't see any problem with 172 units.
No, it's just the configuration of the units and the elevations, and that's to make sure they comply fully with the development agreement and the zoning, because the zoning required certain things on those elevations.
Okay.
Well, and that all has to be part of the final plat anyway. When they're condominiumizing those units vertically, that'll all be part of the final plat. So.
So did Ben make a motion?
Well, if there's no other questions, I'd take a motion.
So I'll make that motion, Mayor, that we approve. Let me get up here. We approve the preliminary plat for the edge at Grand Desert as presented, with the conditions, the recommendations from the Hillside Review Board, and also that the applicant bring forth the design, the conceptual designs for the buildings prior to receiving a grading permit. Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, a friendly amendment maybe. Do we need to have, Matt, do we need to have a right of way through the Williams property for that road?
We've got that, Mayor, or Denny.
Oh, okay.
The city already has the right of way through Williams over to the property that the edge controls.
Super.
I need a second on that motion though, before we have much discussion.
I will second it.
Okay, I've got a motion by Ben and a second by Jarrett. Now we can have questions and any additional discussion relative to the motion, council. Okay, let's do a vote. Roll call. Ben?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Danny?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll look forward to seeing those building plans.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks,
And-
everybody.
And then Councilman.
Hey, item C2, consider approval of a road dedication for Camas Lane. This is a public street intersecting with Vineyard Drive. Corey, is this one yours?
Property owners along the proposed Camas Lane have agreed to dedicate the necessary road right-of-way to get the street properly dedicated and the plat recorded with the county. The proposed public street is 343 feet in length and 35 feet wide. Lance Rigby will be the contractor who will be completing the street improvements. There's a request pending for the building permit for a single-family home. This proposed public street will provide the necessary access. This is just off of Vineyard Drive behind current Chad Gates home. There's a lot there. The future extension of Camas Lane could also lead to additional single-family homes along the street extension. The total area of the current road dedication is 0.31 acres. Staff recommends approval of the road dedication plat. There's a note that said on the report that says road dedications do not require a public hearing, whereas a vacating of the street or an easement does. So that's all I had.
Thanks, Corey. Council, if you recall the lawsuit with Mel Taylor, where the city was given a judgment, part of that road is included underneath this plat, as well as the portion that Chad Gates dedicated to the city when he got his building permit. So this is kind of cleaning up some legal documents and creating a dedicated roadway down through there to access that second lot. It's already split off. It's already been subdivided, just didn't have the full width access. So, any questions?
This is a meets and bounds lot that they want to develop. They'll have to have Lance install the improvements or bond for it.
They're aware of that.
They're aware of it.
I have one question, Corey. I'm actually looking at the dedication plat. I picked it up from the city today, and it looks like it's just Santa Clara that's actually dedicating on this particular plat. Do we already have the Rasmussen portion of the street along with the Chad Gates, or how are we getting the rest of it?
Well, that would have to come through the deed of dedication.
And do we have that, or do we need to get that from them?
We still need to get that.
Okay.
I'll get that from Rasmussen, Matt.
Okay.
I think Chad's already got it, but there may be a little piece that he needs to give where that curb return is, but I'll follow up on that and get that from Rasmussen
Okay. Sounds good.
or Lopez or whoever that. We're working with 2 or 3 different owners, and so I think they're working with the Rasmussens.
So this is to tie that 15-foot piece that we had. We're adding the 20 feet to it and making it a dedicated road.
Yep, that's exactly right. And they're working to, Matt, just while I got you, they're working with the title company now. The judgment's causing the title company some issues, so I may need you to make a call there.
Okay. Yeah, just let me know.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, council?
This has been a long time in the process, hasn't it?
You know, I almost named this Mel Taylor Lane. This is a tribute, but then the owner wanted it Camas, so that's good too. Yeah, it has been a long time.
Way back when I was mayor.
Yeah. Wow. I'm still cleaning up Denny's messes.
And this will, I know this just handles here, but this does allow access into that property now into the property south of that, correct? Continues through?
Yes.
Perfect. Great.
Any other questions, council? If not, I'd look for a motion.
I move that we approve Camas Street dedication and construction.
I'll second it.
Got a motion by Denny and a second by Wendell to approve the Camas Lane dedication. Is there any question on that? Do roll call, Ben.
Aye.
Jarrett? Denny?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Item C3, consider approval of recommendations from the Heritage Commission for artwork along Jonathan Colin's wall located at 3176 Santa Clara Drive. Bob, is this you or Corey?
It's me. The city has received a request from Mr. Jonathan Colin, property owner, to allow him to hire an artist to paint a mural on the existing concrete retaining wall along his property frontage at 3176 Santa Clara Drive. Brock, you've got some photos there.
Yes, and Mr. Colin was initially waited to get in, but he has since left, so we don't have the applicant here for discussion.
The city staff reviewed the request. He did Zoom in to TRC with me and Bob and explained what he wanted to do with the proposed mural, believing it would provide city. We believe it would provide aesthetic improvement to a barren concrete wall along Santa Clara Drive frontage. The applicant stated that he and his wife will take responsibility for maintenance of the artwork, both in terms of potential graffiti repair and refreshing the artwork when the original has faded. There's some relevant codes provisions for Chapter 1742 Historic District Sign Codes. The first one, 17.45.020, definitions, wall murals. A work of art such as a painting applied directly to a wall, fence, pavement, or similar surface that is decorative in nature and content. And then 050 is review procedure. A sign application is reviewed by staff, and upon staff request may be reviewed by the Heritage Commission. No, in this case, the city council will consider the request because the retaining wall is in the city right of way. Also, 17.45.120 permitted sign, permanent sign, number L, murals. Wall murals shall be permitted if the contents is in keeping with the moral society and in keeping with the theme of the historical district and is approved by the Heritage Commission. A maximum of 10% of the mural may be used for advertising as long as the advertisement is incorporated into the mural. Mr. Colin does not want to do any advertising on this mural. It's strictly a work of art. The size, it's limited to one wall. The height limitation must be below a roof line of a wall. The ordinance usually assumes that the mural will be on a building. Illumination, murals may be illuminated. He doesn't plan on illuminating this one. So the proposed for the mural has a Native American design, which seems appropriate given the proximity to Jacob Hamlin Pioneer Home. Jacob Hamlin was famous for his ability to deal with the Native American tribes among his other skills. The size of the mural is basically the size of the existing concrete wall. The circles shown in the photos are approximately 6 feet in size, and staff understands that the mural will extend all or most of the length of the wall. When I met with Daniel, the artist out there, to get these pictures, he said 6 to 8 of those circles, and they're an earth type of artistic interpretation. Earth, wind, water, sound. Heritage Commission action. The Heritage Commission recommends approval of the wall mural and with the condition that the commission may inspect the final artwork to see that it follows the general design presented and approved by the Heritage Commission on April 15th. The applicant, Mr. John Cohen, said during the Heritage Commission meeting that he will be glad to work with the city to get a small plaque posted next to the mural, which will briefly describe the meaning of the artwork, which is about life forces of the earth. And I volunteered to coordinate the possible plaque with Mr. Colin. So this probably would be something where we could actually get RAP tax money for a little plaque to put along the side. Similar to, we discussed what's in front of the Heritage, the Heritage Square or the Merc. So that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Corey. Council, any questions for Corey?
Mayor, I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Corey, how do we plan to make sure that the property owner takes responsibility for this?
I believe that we probably need to draw something up that states that they will maintain it's their property. It's our,
okay.
We need to draw something up saying that they'll maintain it.
Okay, so this is their property where this wall's located.
It's the city's wall, but it is their property, yes.
Okay,
Now,
that's good, because maybe the best way is probably going to be to make sure that this is something that future property owners are responsible for as well, and make sure we have something recorded on the property. So my second question is not a legal question, but you know, it's a Native American themed artwork. Have there been any Native Americans consulted on the content and the look of the art? I mean, we have a local history here of Native Americans. I'm just curious if
this is, my understanding is Mr. Daniel, the artist, is from the Paiute tribe up in Cedar City area.
okay.
But different renderings are from the Shipowets up in Cedar City and several of the different Paiute tribes around the area.
Okay, that's great.
Also associated with this is Mr. Cohen's, and you might have seen it in the pictures. He wants to put rock retaining walls on both sides and sidewalk along Hamlin Drive. So he's not just dress up the retaining wall, but he wants to put retaining on both sides of it and maintain the integrity of his lot so we don't get water draining down on either side. So.
Corey, Matt brings up a good point. We may want to contact the local Shivwits band, and just to make sure that there's nothing in this sign that's coming from the Cedar City Shivwits that may be offensive to the locals that would lead to vandalism or something going forward. I know that all those tribes don't necessarily all get along all that well. And so it may not hurt just to contact the local band and just, I don't know if I would give them design license, but just make sure there's nothing offensive about it.
Okay.
Would it be possible to get I mean, I think the artwork looks great, but an explanation of what it is, just briefly, just so we know what it's referencing there?
Yeah, I think you could, that's what you'd put on the plaque would be the reference, what it meaning. So I think we can definitely get that written, Ben.
At the Heritage Commission meeting, Mr. Colin was attended. You know, he's actually in Virginia right now. He's apparently a dentist that has practiced in the area. And I think the artist was one of his former clients, I think, is their patients, you might say. But Mr. Colin gave a brief explanation of the so-called life forces. One represents wind, was it wind, sun, water, and something else, but there's kind of the basic forces of nature is what the drawing's supposed to represent.
I think fire is the other one.
Maybe that was it.
Any other questions, council? If not, I would look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the recommendations of the Heritage Commission for artwork along the Jonathan Colin's wall located at 3176 Santa Clara Drive, as discussed.
Got a
This is
motion?
Denny. I'll second that.
Motion by Wendell, second by Denny. Any question on that motion, council?
Do we need to include anything in that, as far as the two tribes talked before, or is that just known?
Let's make it contingent upon contacting the local Shivwits band. Is that okay with your motion, Wendell?
Yes.
Danny?
Yes.
And probably going to be written up between the city of maintenance.
That's okay.
Yes.
Wendell?
Yes.
Danny?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else, council? Let's call it to a vote. All in favor, say aye. Roll call. Ben?
Aye.
Garrett?
Aye.
Benny?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, council. Number 4, consider approval of amendment to the Santa Clara City Parks impact fees and resolution 2020-08R. Brad?
Hey, can you hear me? Good evening.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Brad.
I just wanted to start out and say that the adjustment to the impact fees is not amending the Parks and Trails impact fee plan, but rather we're adjusting the fee through resolution that we charge. We're adjusting that fee from $3,096 to $2,906. And it's based on the calculation of not funding or not amending the plan, but calculating without the BMX track, Neighborhood Park 1, Neighborhood Park 2, and Neighborhood Park 3. The total calculation or the total number of improvements taken from the plan is just about $2,803,500. With the adjustments, and it's also based on a 4% inflation rate. The old fee was, let me see here. The old recommend max fee for under this impact fee study is 4,257, and the new maximum fee is 3,782 or 3,782, which is a reduction of $475. But we went ahead and recommended we go to 2,906. I think that's a good recommendation that will allow us to continue to build the parks, and as long as we seek other funding. Also wanted to say that the fee adjustment, if approved, would be effective to coincide with the public safety and streets. And I think the resolution shows that as August 13th of 2020. So that's all I have, unless you have some questions.
Council, is there any questions for Brad? I think this is pretty much what we discussed.
Yes.
If there's no questions, then I would look for a motion to approve that resolution.
Mayor, I'll make that motion that we approve the amendment of the Santa Clara Parks impact fee and resolution 2020-08R.
Got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Ben, a second by Jarrett. Any question on that motion, council? All in favor, say aye. Wendell?
Aye.
Benny?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you, council. Number 5, consider approval of 3 new street standards for the PD zone and Santa Clara City construction standards. Jack?
You hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Basically, council, we've had the street standards that we've been using in a PD zone that we've actually approved. And what I'd like to do is get these street standards adopted into our construction standards. And so with that, Brock, if you want to bring that up so we can look at that on the drawings, please. While he's bringing that up, the first one that we actually have it in our construction drawings, but it doesn't show the public utility and sidewalk easement being 14 feet on each side. And so I just thought in our construction standards, it'd be good to show this same 34-foot public street cross section, but also show on each side of that we have a public utility and sidewalk easement of 14 feet. What that allows for us is that we have a 6-foot landscape area behind the curb, which is we feel is is really nice so that they can plant trees and we don't lose a lot of our sidewalks and things. There's enough room in there to actually do it. And then we have a 4-foot sidewalk. And then we also have 4 feet behind that, which allows us to put our joint utility trench for our transformers and power, you know, TV and all, telephone, whatever, fiber that goes in there. You got that, Brock? He's looking for it.
Yeah, I'll have it in just a moment.
Okay. You, I don't know if you guys have got it up on your computer to be able to see it. One of the places that we're actually using this cross section that we're talking about right now is over in the hills, in the all 3 phases over in the hills development on the south side of the river, and it's worked really well. That's a 41. Go back. There you go. Well, that shows it right there. I don't know if you have any questions about that. Anybody, Rick?
Jack, the transformer, are you saying it's 4 feet behind the sidewalk on the property side?
Yeah.
If you were putting in a power box?
Yes.
4 feet behind it.
It's right, usually a foot off of the sidewalk.
Right.
So it'd be a foot off and then it sits right there behind the sidewalk on the back.
Okay, but you're not talking about really having it 8 feet behind the road, 4 feet behind the sidewalk. You're talking about a foot behind the sidewalk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Transformers are about 3.5 feet wide.
Wide, right, but it starts at a foot behind. Okay.
Yeah.
So do these road profiles need to show modified curb, or is that just an option?
It's an option. This one here, usually where we use the modified curb, Corey, is in the PD zone. Any questions? Okay, let's go on to the 35-foot.
Jack, one other question. When you add 14 feet, are you going to add it on each side?
Yeah, yes, it just gives us a utility easement to be able to get our utilities in there. Because a lot of the gas company now, a lot of the times they don't want to go in the road. They want to go, a lot of times they'll want to go right behind the curb. Sometimes they'll go in the road, but sometimes they want to go in that landscaped area.
Well, I'm just looking at the asphalt is 25 feet. You go 14 feet on each side, you're looking at a lot wider than 34 feet.
Well, it's
all easement, Denny.
I understand it's all easement, but that's as wide as, that's okay. It's a 50-foot, basically it's almost a 50-foot right away with the easement involved.
Yes.
It's a similar impact on the properties, but we've got less pavement to maintain and we're getting the landscape strips.
Okay.
I wish, all of our streets were done this way, especially in the valley. If you go down to, the one right here behind the office where Lonnie Gubler did his subdivision. I mean, it's beautiful down there with the trees and stuff. But it works, and it's been working out in the hills. People seem to like it.
One of the reasons of the 14-foot easement along the front is a lot of times these subdivisions will come in and we won't require an easement on the side property or the rear, that all the utilities are in the front.
Yeah. Yep. And in this, you'll notice when you drive over in the hills, you'll notice that a lot of the homes are closer to the curb. They're closer to the curb. But their garages are set back because they still got to be able to get their garage, their parking behind that sidewalk, so that the truck will stay behind the sidewalk so they're not blocking the sidewalk. So their houses are moved up forward, but their garages are back further. Okay, let's go on.
Jack, sorry, Jack, the setbacks, the standard setbacks are still from property line. You're still 25 feet back from property line, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
And that's top back of curb.
Perfect.
Yep.
In a traditional sidewalk, you'd be a foot behind the sidewalk, where these are modified, your top back of curb.
So the beauty of this is there's a street over there and I don't know which one it is. We walk it quite a bit where they've grassed it and they've got trees in that and it's all consistent across there. It looks great. The concern you run into, and I don't know how you control it because it's property owned, but if you get that landscape strip and one neighbor does it in rock and cactus and then the next neighbor hits grass, that's where you have a landscape strip. But I don't know as a city if we've got the ability to require some consistency in that. We probably don't, but that's the only thing I don't like about them is when it becomes inconsistent. Where it's a sidewalk, it's consistent. It's all the same thing, even though it's just hardscape, just concrete. But that first street over there in the hills is all grass, trees, everything else. And you look all the way down that thing and it looks just like what you said, Jack, looks awesome. But then there are a couple where they've deviated from the theme and it kind of checkerboards it going down. But again, I think, I don't know what we do on that. It's just more of a visual that I've seen.
They can put it in the CC&Rs, which is hard to keep it all enforced, or it works really good in a PD zone because then they've got better control of what goes in there.
Ben, actually, this is Bob, under the PD zone project plan approval requirements, the city could control or dictate or whatever how that landscape strip is handled.
Yeah, and I think I'm not saying it's grass. Obviously, we live in a desert. I mean, the grass looks terrific, but just the consistency, because I get the purpose. Obviously, it's less maintenance, but that landscape strip can be just awesome when done right. And that first street in there, maybe that's the second street, has done that, and it looks so good.
Yeah.
When that came through, we did require them to put a couple trees in there, so they'll be uniform. And we've tried to consistently have them at CO put trees and deep watering systems through the hills, out at Belisol, these different developments.
Yeah, the checkerboard comes into play when you have this street section in a single family subdivision like the hills. In the PDs, the HOA is maintaining those front yards, and then typically they will maintain that theme all the way through because they're doing the maintenance themselves. The HOA is. So. Go ahead, Jack.
Okay, thank you. Good discussion. It'll be nice just to have that in there. Let's go to the 35-foot one now, Brock. And This one here is just a little bit different. It only has sidewalk on one side. It has 26 feet of asphalt, which we like, less asphalt. It's a smaller street. You'll see this one up in Paradise Village. This is what they did up in Paradise Village. We've got it. It seems to work fine. We haven't had any issues with it. Really, it's pretty well straightforward. I don't know if you guys have any questions on that or not. It's worked okay for our emergency vehicles, and Randy, you can speak up if you think there's any difference, but we haven't had any problems.
This one is where it's not a through street. So this would be like Dennis Gar's project, or where the street is accessing the units themselves, but it's not a thoroughfare to another street or something like that.
Yeah,
They're
this one,
usually enclosed projects.
yeah, I think this one here we'd only want to use in a PD zone, right, Rick?
Yes, yeah, you wouldn't use this in a subdivision, only the PD where the street is not a through street. It's not carrying very much traffic either on the vehicles or the pedestrian side. And it helps keep the speeds down that allows the sidewalk on one side to work.
Okay. Any
Questions on this one, council? Hey, Jack.
Okay, Brock, slide her up again. There you go. Good job. Okay, this one here is with 28 feet of asphalt and just your typical curb and sidewalk on both sides.
It's 29 feet, Jack.
Or 29 feet of asphalt, excuse me.
This is the section of Lava Flow Drive in front of my house. Is this section right here? It fit in a. We use this section on Lava Flow because the driveways on both sides were different elevations. So this kind of squoze the street in there and lets you use that additional right-of-way width to get your driveways to work and your front yards transition areas to work. So it's worked out to be a pretty good street.
And what I like about it is it's less asphalt. Well,
but it's got the backing behind it with the curb and stuff, so we don't lose the asphalt on the edges either.
Right. Yep. Any questions, council? Jack, is this the last one? You got one more?
Nope, that's it. And then if Brock will go back to the standards on, right here, we've added them in here, and we can make changes to this, council, or Rick, if you can see something that we ought to change. One thing I thought about is on the curb, on the, let's see, it's the the 34 foot right there, the top one, where it says modified curb. Should I just put, only curb on one side?
Are you talking sidewalk, you mean? Only sidewalk on one side?
Yeah.
Well, no, that modified is your curb. That's your rolled curb or your standard.
Right. Yeah, the sidewalk is where sidewalk's on one side, and you could put that in that one box, Jack. Wouldn't be bad. Right there.
Okay. Other than that, we just added, and then over here, classification, we put PD access A, PD access B, PD access C, just to note that we would only want to use these in a PD zone. I guess, Rick, that one, we could,
Well, you've got the residential access A. That's the last one you showed us, and that one could be modified or high back.
yes, it could.
Because on Vineyard, if I remember right, that's the section we're proposing for Vineyard, right?
Yes,
With modified gutters to allow us to match driveways, so I'd definitely add modified to that residential access A. It's an option, they can do either or.
okay.
Access B is, have you got access B? That's your standard 50-foot street, isn't it?
Yes,
So is it modified or high back there too?
I think we've just tried, we left that up to what, you know, what we feel works in that area. Some areas we might want a high back curb, but definitely.
Yeah, I'd put both of them in that box too, so they could go either way.
Okay,
And the others are all high back, the collector, arterial, local, commercial.
that's correct. So unless there's any questions, I would just ask council to approve that with those changes, and we can get this wrapped up. We had quite a bit of discussion in our work meetings about these items.
Council,
Well, I
any
move
questions?
to approve.
Was that a motion, Denny?
Yes.
Got a motion by Denny. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Got a motion by Denny and a second by Ben to approve the three new street standards for the PD zone and Santa Clara construction standards as presented. Any question on that motion, council?
I just wanted to point out Randy's comment about parking on only one side. Maybe he wants to elaborate on that if we need to incorporate that somehow.
Well, there are situations where you may only want to go on one side because of access to amenities and so forth, but within a PD zone, that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, my comment would be just that if you have parking on less than a 35-foot street, if you have parking on both sides, it really takes away that ability for a 20-foot fire access lane through there. So just keep in mind that I would recommend parking on one side only on those less than 35-foot asphalt roads.
So what side of lava flow are you gonna let them park on, Randy?
I guess the side with the sidewalk.
The sidewalk on both sides.
Oh, that's
Wednesday and Friday on the right, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday on the left, no parking on Sunday.
hey, I like that. Park in your driveway.
Okay, bring that one back all written up, Brock.
You know, on Rick Street, you know, it's a great calming device. It does slow people down, especially on that street. It's a long runway. I mean, once they get past the stop sign and head south, you know, past Rick's house, they get flying down there. And so with that being the narrower street, and when people are parked, you sometimes you have to kind of wind through there, but it works as a great calming device.
Yeah, if you want to really slow them down, park two cars right across from each other.
Absolutely.
And it will make them pay attention.
And then start a fire on the other end. So there's
Yeah, and then watch the fire truck try and get
to go through.
Okay. Well, there's probably not an easy fix for that one. Buy smaller cars. Any other comments, council? We do have a motion and a second. There's no other comments. Just do roll call. Ben?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Denny?
aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Thank you, council. Number 6 is consider approval of the Ironman interlocal agreement. Says presented by Mayor Rosenberg, but I'm gonna let Brock do it. Brock or Matt. Matt, have you seen this agreement? It's the same one we got in previous years, right?
No, it's a little bit updated, but I have seen it. I actually came to the office today and signed it. So
Okay. The Ironman did get moved to September 16th. Is that right? Is that the day?
Yes, it's
I
a
don't know
week
the
before
exact
Swiss
date.
Day, so that'd be about the 17th.
Yeah, it's a week before Swiss days. So
17th. Yeah.
everybody, it pretty much tells what the city's requirements are relative to the Ironman and what their requirements are for the city. Recommend approval, Matt?
Yeah, I didn't have any issues with it.
Any questions, council? If not, I'd look for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make that motion that we approve the Ironman interlocal agreement.
Got a motion by Ben. Do I have a second?
I'd second it with the caveat that Matt pays any expenses that we get involved in with the agreement. No, I just kidding. I'll second it.
Yeah, got a motion and a second. Any questions on it? Roll call. Wendell?
Aye.
Danny?
Aye.
Garrett?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Passes. Thank you, council. Budget update and discussion, Brock.
All right, this will be relatively quick. This week, we've been working with the department heads on budgets. We were working on doing some cuts this last week. The mayor forwarded me some more information that he received on some of the economic impact that has been felt over the last roughly month here locally, which then put us into another discussion here with staff. And so roughly update, we have gone back to staff this week and asked them to make some more cuts in their budgets. We're taking about as much out as we feel we can. So I don't have numbers for you tonight. We'll have those back at the work meeting in 2 weeks. We'll bring what we've put together, but we've gone back to staff and asked them to cut. We're looking at cutting right now. I guess we'll approximately looking at 10% from what we had looked at previously. So we're looking at about $500,000 to $600,000. We'll be looking to eliminate from the budget this coming fiscal year.
Okay. Any questions on that, council?
I don't have a question specific to the budget, mainly more just a comment as we move into reopening, I don't know where our position is as a city. My concern is each state's kind of looking at this differently. And then when one state makes a decision, I think our state's doing a lot of good things and taking the lead in a way on this. These governors are getting chastised from these other states, or criticized, maybe is a better word. Oh, you need, and I obviously we need to open up. I think the cases in Washington County are ridiculously low, and we need to, and this is coming from me, we need to look at moving things along, and so from a city side, what data are we relying on? What's our plan as a city? Are there dates are we looking at to open up parks? Have we discussed that? Where are we at in all this?
I've given the Brad the direction to have plans ready for reopening of the bathroom and reopening of the pickleball courts. And I think we're looking at Monday to do that, correct, Brad?
That's correct. Monday, we're going to open the pickleball courts at Canyon View and also at Goobler Park, and then open the bathrooms at Goobler Park. Did you want us to go ahead and open the other bathrooms at Canyon View Black Rock
Yeah,
Park at that
yeah, I'd
time?
like to see the Canyon View one opened and the Black Rock one opened. Well, with the limited hours and the extra cleaning like we talked about at Goober as well.
Okay, does that include playgrounds?
No, not yet.
All right,
Maybe another week on playgrounds. We'll see what, in answer to your question, Ben, we're following the governor's directive as closely as we can. And so as he opens stuff, we open stuff. I meet with the mayors twice a week and we talk about local things that can be opened and stay within the governor's directive. And that happens, like I say, every other day. There's additional discussion about what's going to be opened up. He opened the state parks. We're going to open pickleball and restrooms. The parks have never closed, so there's always been access there. The super high traffic that leads to the gathering that the playgrounds would be, we're going to hopefully take that through the end of the month when his directive, I think, is going to expire, and we'll see new instruction from him. Then we'll open those playgrounds up. The HOAs have contacted us regarding their common area amenities and their pools. The direction that I've given them, and I told Brock to give them, was basically that we're asking them, just same as when we asked them to consider shutting them down, it was to follow what the governor's directive has said. And so we've asked them to continue to follow that directive, but it's up to them. We haven't issued a closure on any of the privately owned facilities. I don't think we can do that. That's would have to come from the health department directly. Dr. Blodgett is on the call with the mayors a couple of times a week. We get updates on hospitalizations and on the cases that are reported. The critical stat he feels is the hospitalizations. That number has stayed very low, but the same token, the hospital has been given direction from IHC headquarters that they want to have 500 beds available the middle of June, which is a couple hundred more than they have normally. And so they're very concerned about a second wave, a second spike coming in if we open too fast. So we're just following the direction of the governors, watching what the other cities around us are doing, trying to work together to open things slowly. I'm thinking that there's going to be some type of softening in the directive that would allow some of the restaurants to open with social distancing and with some additional requirements for the restaurants. They may even be able to have outdoor seating, those types of things. I think we'll see some stuff coming around the 1st of the month, or maybe next week, early next week, that would go into effect the 1st of May to soften some of that stuff. And that's kind of what, the city's just following the directive and opening what we have. The only things we closed were the restrooms, playgrounds, and pickleball courts. So 2 of the 3 things we closed are open, and I anticipate playgrounds will be open right after the 1st of the month. So
one of the questions I would have, Rick, is, I believe that Utah's been handling it a whole lot different than a lot of states, and actually handling it very, very well. I wonder if we ought to draft a letter of support to the governor for the things that he's done. I mean, we haven't been shut down. We haven't been restricted. I've heard reports from other areas in the United States, but also within the world, where the restrictions are so tight you can't drive on the roads. And if you're pulled over driving, there's a $1,100, $1,500 fine for doing it. If you continue, it's jail time. I mean, I just think that I think the governor's done an excellent job in managing what we've done, and he's done it through the mayors, through volunteers, through the citizenry. But I wonder if we had not to give him some support, because I'm sure he's getting some heat from other areas.
Yeah, he is. I'd be all totally supportive of that, council. If you guys had supported, I'd put a letter together and forward it to him, and also to the health department. You only hear from Dr. Blodgett during pandemics. That's the only time you even know who's over there. And if you're getting your food handler's permit for Swiss days, or if we're dealing with a pandemic. When we went to Anniston, it was all about the pandemic they were having with not, was it SARS or the other one? And he was there, and now he's kind of taking a lead here, and he leads from the back seat, kind of taps you on your shoulder and encourages you one way or the other. But it's been effective, and the same with Dr. Dunn at the state health department and the governor. So I'd be more than willing to put a letter together, tell them thank you and support their work that they're doing.
And I think that was the point of my question or kind of comment there is I think Utah's done a great job in managing this, and I don't want our leadership to succumb or feel pressured from these other states that I don't believe have done a great. I don't believe, shutting down someone from driving on the road is the right answer in this thing. And you look at what's going on, and so I do want that. I do think that we have done a great job on that, and certainly now that we move forward into the reopening stage, I think we can take the lead in that as well, and economically show to our businesses and that, and to our community that, look, we can still be smart in that. And yeah, I think we would all agree it's a virus. You don't go hide in your home for months and then come back, and the virus is still going to be there. It's still going to run its course, and so we may see a spike a little bit in this, but I don't think digging a hole in the sand and burying our head for a year while we find it. I think we've done great things, so I would support that as well. And
we'll probably look at maybe reopening town hall May 1st as well. But we'll probably put tape on the floor, and we'll talk to Brock about that, and plexiglass at the counter to help protect the employees. That's the reason it's closed, is not it's to protect the employees. And so we'll do some things there to maybe open some of that up, and we'll take all the chairs out of city council, but maybe 4, and we'll limit public attendance to 4 at any one time, put 1 in each corner or something like that. But I think we can look at some things the first of the month. Brock, you agree?
Yeah, I am. And you talking about the plexiglass, I had spoke with staff today, came and asked some questions about that, about what we would be doing going forward. So we'll be looking into options for that. We spoke about some other options, but yeah, I support that, and we'll work to get ourselves ready for that.
The court was closed by the state Supreme Court, so the Supreme Court will have to reopen our local court. I haven't heard anything that way or seen any correspondence. Matt, have you heard anything from the legal side, the bar, or anything?
No.
Okay. So I think that may be a little slower in reopening. We'll see. But I think the employees have been doing a great job. We did, just so you guys know, we did a video mayor's newsletter this month. So when it comes out, it's a video format. And Christelle is putting that together, and we'll see how it goes. But I'd like to see each of you get your mug on that as we go forward. So kind of get ready. We'll give you an assignment, and she'll take you out and take some video of you, and we'll get you on the city's webpage. But I think the new newsletter, I really like the new format. I like the ability to do the video and the color and the number of pictures and make it longer. So I'm excited about that too. So look for that coming up. But the biggest complaints I've got complaints from two specific groups. One is from pickleballers. For some reason, they have more rights than all the rest of us. And so I don't know if it says on the racket or what it is, but they've been very anxious to get pickleball courts. So one guy hates driving to Washington every day to play pickleball. But so those guys have been anxious. And then the owners of the vacation rentals, Paradise Village at Zion owners, not the management companies, but the owners themselves are feeling the financial pinch, not being able to fill their vacancies. Same as vacation rentals, I think, across the nation, from all the reports I'm getting, are way down, like 70% less bookings for the next 2 months. So I haven't got a lot of negative feedback from residential residents of the city. I haven't got any from businesses within the city, but what businesses in the city have we closed except for Kalele's, and it was closed anyway, and Lammy's is doing curbside and drive up window. So have we really, are any of them shut down completely? Any of our commercial establishments? I know the city didn't shut them down, so I think we're going to be a lot easier to reopen fully because we didn't have very little closed down to get where we are today. So I think it's going to bounce back pretty quick. The national economy and state economy are different things though. And it's that state portion of the sales tax that we're worried about. And the transportation, did everybody get the slideshow I sent you that Kevin Lewis put together on tourism? Those losses are dramatic. And so we just got to be prepared for it. Okay, mayor and council reports. Do any of you guys have a report to give? Raise your hand. Corey, I didn't say staff reports. Let's see. Oh, I don't get any council reports. Okay, Corey, give us a staff report.
Jarrett has a report. He raised
one item.
Corey, I'm going to mute you
Okay.
until Jarrett's done.
Okay, Jarrett.
Okay. I did want to add on to the closings discussion that in a conference call last week with Spencer Cox, he did mention that city halls, they didn't really want them closed. I thought that was kind of interesting. He said they've never recommended they close from the state level. So I think we should reopen that as soon as we can with the proper measures. And then just a BMX track update. Brooke called me and told me that I think 4 sponsors pulled out due to uncertainty with their budgets. A big one was Interstate. They were going to donate quite a bit of gravel and rock to retain that last berm. And so she's been on the horn, still hitting the pavement. She had additional meetings, and then she's going to get some numbers to us to see kind of what it'll take to finish, to open. She gave me a ballpark number right now of about 20 grand she would need to get the signs and the gravel and the stuff for ADA, for the sidewalk, the concrete. But I talked to her about, paring things back as much as she could in terms of signage, and she wants to get some rental bikes, things like that, and then get us a number. So I think by the work meeting, I'll have that number that I can come to the council and kind of see what we want to do. It's kind of a tricky situation because she had it all in the bag, it was all done, and then people pulled out. So I know Brad has talked to her about maybe going back to the county for some additional funds. I don't know if we want to do that or not. It kind of depends on how big that number is, I think. So we'll just discuss when that comes forward. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jarrett. It looks good up there. When is their potential open date?
Brad might know better than me, but really it's, I don't know, to be honest. I mean, they're probably like a week's worth of work from being done and like being able to start doing some races. One main issue is they want to get the soil tack down on the dirt. Brooke said they could probably run a race or 2 on it without the soil tack, but then they'd have to go back and do some repairs. And so they really want to do that soil tack first. And they have the material, they just have to fly a guy out to actually put it on or train them how to put it on. So there's some expense that's included in that 20,000 to get that done.
Okay. Council, did you guys think of any other reports? Okay, Corey, floor is yours.
I just had one item. I had a resident that has encroached on city property. They're making a request to purchase the city property. I'll have Brock pull up that. It's under Corey, under the Dropbox, so that you can see the property. It's up on Rimview Circle. It's 3650 Rimview Circle, Isaac Steed. Anyway, the city owns the property along Santa Clara Drive. The parcel we picked up from Matt Musgrave. And, you can see that they've did some improvements, some retaining of their lot on our property. And they're interested in wanting to know if council's interested in allowing them to purchase that portion that they've improved. So that's what I'm talked to Brock about, and he wanted me to bring it to you and ask if that was something we wanted to get into, whether, you know, we wanted to set a precedent where we're selling a portion of our city property or not.
Is this part of that Village Bank? That foreclosure that we bought from the bank?
The Matt Musgrave, where the old fort was gonna go, the Fort of Santa Clara down below.
It's part of that parcel?
Yeah, it's the very up on the hill that backs those rear lots along Rimview Circle.
Does he want to buy that whole triangle, Corey, or just that thin strip where that rock wall is?
Yes, that little teeny area right there.
Well, that's not little teeny. That's probably 5,000 square feet.
I don't have the cursor, but he wants to purchase the property that he's improved. You can see a little rock wall in there for retaining.
Uh-huh.
That's the parcel he wants to.
Is that a gate that I see there? That dark thing, is that a gate?
Oh, that's a gate, and they put in 4 or 5 feet of fill, and there's a rock retaining wall there. They've encroached on our property and improved it. Now they want to ask to purchase it.
They've been accessing it through Mountain View Circle through another gentleman's lot that's not theirs from over here, and then that's how they've accessed it.
Okay. Council, what do you think?
My only concern, I'm not opposed to it. My concern is, okay, they encroach on the property, and just so we don't set a precedence that, you know, someone goes into city property and then down the road buy it. I guess you get it appraised and sell it at appraised value.
Well, there's another issue with neighbors. You want to, I mean, I don't feel good about selling a piece of property that also borders a neighbor's piece without their viewing it and saying no and yes, just because the guy may improve it even more than what he's already improved it, and may block somebody or do something and really raises a problem. But I'm like Ben, I don't have any problem selling excess profit. In fact, it takes a liability away from us doing that with that hillside slope, but gives him some liability. But I would want to make sure that the neighbors all agree that we could sell it to him. Not that it's a requirement, but it sure would help.
I don't know if anybody else noticed, but one of the neighbors is Congressman Snow. We could easily ask him what he thinks about it.
Yeah.
Looking at his property, Matt, is that property improved behind Lowry's house? Is that on our property as well?
Looks like everything improved behind Lowry's house is on Lowry's lot, just looking at the lines, but.
Now there's a green portion down off the hill, looks like. Is that, what is that?
Looks like that's all Lowry's going down to a point.
Okay, but it's below, actually below the area that's been improved by Steve, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it runs down below that, yeah.
But yeah, it looks like it's, and those lines are approximate coming on the aerial. But yeah, it looks like that's on Lowry's. I wouldn't worry too much about that one. It'd be nice, Corey, if we knew exactly what we were talking about, how many square feet.
Okay.
Something dimensionally. And then if that's like that gate, it'd have to be removed. I don't want that being inferred to be an access. if that's what it is, and I can't see close enough to tell.
Yeah, that's a gate.
Can he access it from his lot?
Well, he's
Or does he-
using access off the neighbor, and then he cuts across the city property to get into his backyard, and that
Right,
wouldn't,
that's why but I'd almost make it a requirement. He accesses the property from his own property.
exactly. That's, yeah, there's, if we sell him a strip, he doesn't get any access with that strip. And he needs to go back and restore what he's disturbed there.
Well, the other option would be to sell him the whole triangle.
Yeah, yeah, that would be an option to sell him the whole thing. $2 a square foot.
Does that run all the way down to the old fort site though?
Well, it looks like it'd be a triangle that would follow that road that parallels the slope. That, yeah, right there. That's what he would be buying. Clear over to that lot. So it would increase the size of it quite a bit. I'm assuming that's all on top of the main slope of the hill.
It is.
I think we definitely need to get the neighbors involved, make sure that they're okay.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Well, I think if we're going to sell public property, don't they have to do a public hearing anyway?
Clear surplus.
Yeah, we'd have to identify it as surplus property before we sold it.
My only concern is once we start opening up city property and we have a lot of it along the hillside, we'll have every resident in the city wanting a little piece here and a little piece there and come into the city. I know we've been approached in the past over here on Heights Drive for some property behind the old fire station. But
I agree with you, Corey. I think that could be a real problem. And if there was any opposition by any neighbor, then I would say you don't do it at all.
Well, and is he planning on landscaping that entire area back there, Corey?
my understanding is he had some erosion problems on the back of his property. So he found by putting a retaining wall and that fill in there, he could level it up.
And
And
is he gonna plant it and put irrigation water on it?
he hasn't put it, he's left it desert landscaping so far. He hasn't put irrigation on it.
Well, I think the other problem is
Plans are.
do we require him to remove it?
I think if we don't sell it to him, we need to have him remove it. Otherwise, it becomes a issue of eminent domain where he's used our property long. Might say, well, I've used it. Nobody's ever said, anything, therefore it's my property.
Well, he can't do that on public land, but that,
Yeah, he can't make a claim based on adverse possession or prescriptive rights on city property. But I think if we don't sell it to him, I do agree with Corey that we should probably require him to remove it.
Well, let's have him submit something that shows what he's interested in and get approvals from all the neighbors, and then we'll maybe declare it surplus.
It may help with our budget this year.
Once he submits how much of the property he is really looking at there, we'll have our own appraisal done of that property that he is suggesting he would want to purchase.
If he wants to pay for an appraisal, it's not gonna appraise for anything.
well, and the cost of the appraisal needs to be added to the purchase price of the property.
Yeah, I don't wanna spend any money trying to fix his mistake.
Okay.
Esplin used to throw out that $2 a square foot no matter where it was. If you wanted it from the city.
That's a pretty good deal in today's market if you take a 1/4 acre lot at even 75,000, but you take a 10,000 square foot lot and you're 750 a square foot. So
Yeah, but that's got access and entitlement.
yeah.
Okay, let's see what he really wants. See what the neighbors think. Anything else, guys, on reports? Okay, let's look at the claims and minutes. And just so you guys know, next meeting, the claims and minutes and the calendar of events are going to be moved up to the consent calendar. So we'll take care of them right at the start of the meeting. Try and speed things up a little bit.
Good idea.
You've got April 8th, 2020 regular city council meeting and the claims through April 22nd. You got any questions on either of those? There's not any. I'd look for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make that motion that we approve the April 8, 2020 regular city council meeting minutes and the claims through April 22nd, 2020.
Got a motion? Do I need, got a second?
I'll second it, Denny.
Got a motion by Ben and a second by Denny to approve the city council meeting minutes and the claims as presented. Any question on that motion? Roll call, Ben?
Aye.
Garrett?
Aye.
Denny?
Aye.
Mendel?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. You can see the calendar of events. We got a work meeting on the 6th, regular meeting on 13th, regular meeting on 27th. We have public hearings at both of those regular meetings, so that'll be a new game for us. We got the building open by then. Be nice if we could get it open by then, Bucky. That would simplify that. And then we do have an executive session tonight to talk about potential legal action against the city. Is that right, Matt?
Yes.
So we need to go into I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss that.
I so moved.
I'll second it.
Mendel the motion and Danny the second to go into executive session. Let's roll call that. Ben?
Aye.
Garrett?
Aye.
Danny?
Aye.
Mendel?
Aye.
Okay. We'll excuse the staff.